What is good, YouTube? Quinn Wade, basketball analysis coming to you with a quick video. We're going to talk about Big Bagley, a guy that's the hottest topic in the NBA right now because of his father requesting that he wants his son to be traded, and De'Aaron Fox's father don't have a problem with it, which is funny in his own right, but I was a guy that was low on Bagley. I didn't think he was that good in the draft. I didn't think he was going to be that good of a player. And I do think it does have something to do with coaching and also the fact that they have multiple bigs that's either better than him or even, like you say, Harry Giles and Willie Cauley-Stein that was there before. They have to figure out what they're going to do with this team because they in a situation where they're competitive, they're feisty, they're good, but the biggest problem with them is their style of play changed since they switched coach. When they switched to Luke Walton, it seemed like they're still trying to find some things, and they might not have the pieces or the talent that they want to play. And that happens when you're trying to sign players, you're trying to keep players, and you're trying to keep them happy. Because remember, Buddy Hield wanted out, and they didn't want to trade him, but then they let Bob walk for nothing, and then they ended up letting Giles and them other guys do it. So to me, I want to figure out what they're trying to do with this team and what direction they're trying to go in, because they was trying to go all in for being a seventh or an eighth seed, especially when they traded for Harrison Barnes a while ago. But that was a different style of play and a different coach. And with this Luke Walton hiring, they have still been decent. Even last year, they had stints where they looked good, stints where they looked bad, and stints where they looked okay, but they haven't been able to put it all together. And with them committing a lot of money in Fox, it shows you that they feel like he can be a big foundation piece to what they want to do in the future. And I don't blame him. I'm a fan of Fox. I like what he does. But when I look at how the roster is built and how the starting lineups are, I don't feel like they're getting the best out of Fox like they was with the other coach. And Bagley just don't fit. He's not hitting enough perimeter shots. He don't hit threes particularly good. And he's best inside. When you think about Big Bagley, you think about him in that paint area, in that 15-foot area. And, they don't do that consistently for him. So I don't really put the blame all on Bagley. I still don't think they should have drafted them that high. And I'm not saying that now because I said it then. But now that they have, they got to live with it. It's not going to change, and it's the decision that they made. And regardless if they want to move forward with Bagley or, they want to trade him, they still got to figure out what they're trying to accomplish with this team. Because the pieces really just, in my personal opinion, don't fit the way that they need them to fit if they really want to be a playoff team in the West. Because as we see, it's 10, 11 teams in the West that's better than this team and plays better, especially even if the other teams was healthy. So they're competing to be a play-in team. Like, I don't even consider Sacramento as a threat to make the playoffs, if I had to be honest, by the end of the season. And at best, they will just be playing in. And that's not where you want to be. It's either you want to be a team consistently in the playoffs or a team competing for a title or a team rebuilding. And the sad part about Sacramento is they compete enough to where they're not bad enough to get a top 5 pick. And even when they did, they blew it a lot in these last couple of drafts. And Bagley was one of them. And they're getting cursed for it. It was a good thing to trade for Buddy Hield because he fits with Fox, but Barnes hasn't really fit as well as they hoped. He had some decent seasons, but he wasn't that missing piece that they thought that would get them over the hump and make them a threat in the West. And now they're still trying to figure out who that guy will be and what they need to do to get over the hump. So they're in a tough situation right now. And I said this 2 years ago, and it became reality 2 years later that Sacramento is in trouble because if you can't secure a top pick, like this team needs a number one or a number two pick, which they did have, but they blew it. And they're not going to get free agents. If they're not trading for a guy, they have pieces, but they're not trading for a guy. I don't really see this team actually being a playoff team in the future. And that's the sad part if you're a Sacramento fan, is just because where are you going? Like that's the biggest problem with this team. I don't think it's Bagley. And I don't believe Bagley can get you that piece because he's not worth much. He's not playing much. And bigs are not a hot commodity, especially if they can't space the floor and shoot. which Bagley does not bring to the table. So I don't just look at this as a Bagley problem. I look at this more or less like an organizational problem. Bringing in a new coach and changing the personnel, and then they lost by Bogdanovich for basically nothing, in my personal opinion. And he was a key piece to this team and really helped them with this floor space and then the creation to a certain extent ability. And they basically have nothing to show for that. And that honestly means they got worse. They didn't get better. And if I had to be honest, the last 2 years, I don't feel like they got better. And that's why they've been stuck in the same situation. So it just shows you how important drafting is. Drafting DeMarcus Cousins got them to the same area, but they could not consistently draft well to build a playoff caliber team over those years. And next thing you know, they flipped them for Buddy Hield and they draft De'Aaron Fox, and they just couldn't continue to build on top of that. And now they're stuck again where they're probably better off just tanking, especially these next 2 years, because at least you have guards and wings and some decent forwards that actually probably will make sense even if they don't get the number one pick. But it seems like they still trying to be in win now mode, and I don't see them being nothing better than a playoff play-in team. And if that's your best ceiling, then you basically doing this all for nothing. And I felt like they was going to be in this situation, and it happened way faster than I thought. But it just shows you how tough it is if you can't draft strong and you can't continue to put the pieces around when you're in the lottery and develop them. You really have a ceiling as a small market team. And we done seen this with a lot of teams like OKC. They was able to put it together, but they couldn't cash in with a title, and now they're back at the bottom, trying to get another chance at more superstars because they can't really get any now since they gutted their roster. And to me, if Sacramento's not going to gut their roster, then they're not going to have the ability to secure that number one or that possibly a Ja Morant type of player at number two or a Kevin Durant type player at the two. And Bagley was a guy that they was high on. They liked him better than a lot of people in that draft. And they put a lot of years scouting him, and when they got him, he just wasn't the guy and the fit that they needed. And now you look at the guys like Trae Young and Luka, and these guys having all-star caliber seasons, and even Aiden was almost a 20-10 guy. And I'd rather have Aiden than Bagley, if I had to be honest. And there's nothing they could do about that because he went number one. But they just in a situation where it is not ideal. And it sounds kind of crazy to say, are they better off just trading away, or are they better off treading water trying to wait till they get that piece? Because they got Fox and these guys locked down long term. And how will they be able to do that if they actually a decent team? So, I look at it bigger than just Bagley. I don't think Bagley is the only problem for why this team ain't successful this year. I don't look at Bagley as being a big reason why they're failing. I know people would throw that in my face that he is, because he was that second pick that they blew, because he didn't really become really even a rotational player. Like, Bagley looks bad right now defensively, and he looks lost offensively, which is crazy because he came in mostly for his rebounding and his offensive ability and his size. And none of that has really translated, unfortunately. And once you miss that bad like they did, I don't even know where they can go at this point. I mean, the best they can do is draft. So, my 2 cents is I don't know if they're going to get rid of Bagley. If I was them, I would just keep him, because I don't really see you getting anything of value for him, especially how bad he's been playing this season. And not only that, he hasn't really done anything the prior seasons because of injuries. So if you're trading Bagley at this point, you're taking a huge loss. Not only because he's basically a bust at this point, considering that he was a number 2 pick, and you're not going to get much value for him getting rid of him now because he's on the low. So to me, I don't see an ideal world where Bagley turns it around. I think this is who he is, and this is the best you can get out of him, except if you try to get rid of him and you're not going to get the value. So you're probably better off just, keeping him at this point. And that sounds crazy because he's just playing that bad even if you keep him. So you're in a lose-lose situation. And this just shows you how important drafting is for small market teams. If you hit and you get them right, you can build a competitive team and you have a chance to win a title if you make the right trades and make the right draft picks. And they had some hits, but they had more misses. And you can't afford to do that when you can't get big free agents and you can't get guys to want to stay and play in Sacramento. And they haven't been able to do that over the course of being in Sacramento. And that's why you continually see the same problems every decade. And they're starting this decade off the same way. And it's really no easy answer to how they're going to figure this out. You know, it's not. And, even if Bagley and his father is frustrated, I don't really see a team willing to trade for Bagley and start him and, make him a feature player for their offense. He's just not good enough and not skilled enough at this point. And to me, he's better off staying in Sacramento now because they still want to, gas him up. They still want to have him around. And they losing because he's not the guy that they needed to get at number 2. So to me, when I look at this situation, it's just ugly. It's ugly for the organization. It's ugly for the family of Bagley, and it's ugly for the fans because this team is in worse than no man's land. They worse than that, and they have a lot of guys tied up with a lot of money, and those guys are not good enough, for their position. Like Fox is not an all-star player right now. Neither is Hill. Neither is Harrison. And these guys, you're paying a lot of money to be those complementary and great pieces around each other, and they play well, but you need them to play better than that because of the amount of money you're paying them. And a lot of these guys looks like they hit their ceiling. And even if Fox could get a little bit better, can he really be one of those top 5 point guards? That's going to be a question for him is how good is De'Aaron Fox and how good can he get from now? Once he figures out the shooting, which he has in a certain level, that's really as good as he's going to get. If he becomes a 20-plus scorer, that's not enough in the West. It's not going to be enough. And he did that last year, and they didn't make the playoffs. So they're stuck. And so is Bagley, and so is Luke, and so is the whole organization. They're frozen. And there's no remedy, there's no cure, there's no vaccine for them right now. They're just going to have to deal with it. These are the decisions that they made. These are the decisions that they felt was right. And obviously they was wrong, and they have to deal with it by watching the product and continuing to see people complain how bad they are or get excited for what they show and then be disappointed the next week. So they're in a situation where it's tough. They're in one of the worst situations in the league, and I said that 2 years ago, maybe even 4 years ago when they was picking Stein and them, and it's reality now. So that's all I got to say. I'm not gonna keep y'all long. Quinn Wade, basketball analysis. I'm gone, and honestly, enjoy y'all weekend, and I'll be back tomorrow.